I mean, there's a couple thoughts when I think about some of the retailers out there that I've seen tackling this better than others. One of the areas we see retailers actually do this pretty well is when they come with a very specific set of item attributes they're looking for, tied to
Okay.
tackling a very specific business problem. So one of the big complexities out there right now is shipping air, or the amount of dead space inside of distribution centers, or over maximized space within distribution centers, simply because item dimensions are not understood.
Mm.
So for
Interesting.
example, we saw one retailer go out to their supplier base and, through being very specific on the information that they were looking for, saw almost 90% of their items within that distribution center now have clear item dimensional attribute tied to that, to be able to better optimize their DC space, as well as their freight lanes, and how they're moving goods. So when retailers can get very specific on it, suppliers can understand it, and suppliers know the information. Therefore, okay, I now know what you're trying to do.
Oh, Brendan, so let me stop you for a second. So if I yes and that, you're saying like, is that that's a good approach for retailers to take to get comfortable with this discussion? Is like, hey, let me zero in on one metric that I need to improve, and
Yeah.
let me go whole hog on trying to improve that. And the dimensions is a great one, especially in the
Mhm.
e-commerce, with how e-commerce is taking off.
Absolutely.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And because the suppliers very clearly understand then the business implications of not doing this, and it's information the suppliers have. So, there's not a lot of confusion in there, as well as it's pretty straightforward. I can connect that to the business implications. The other one I would say, and so there's obviously that very specific business case.
Yeah.
The other thing that we see is when they get very focused on starting with new items that they're bringing into their assortment and
Mhm.
automating that process. A lot of times we'll see the retailers want to go out and clean up current items. And for the most part, suppliers are only mildly interested on providing
Right.
you a bunch of additional item information for items you're already carrying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well,
Right.
you're
There's no
already
incentive
selling
for
it.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Never thought about that.
you're already selling it. Now you
Yeah.
want me to do a bunch more work on an item you're already selling? Like, that's going to be a little bit harder versus, oh, I need to
Interesting.
set up a new item, and here are the expectations, and this is what the flow is. And the reality is, a lot of times buyers are having to know this information to even make a buying decision.
Mm.
And now they just kind of take it and say, well, then my consumers need that same information in their buying process. So here's the path to do it. So those are a couple of the ways I think we're seeing the most success, in the retailers we're working with tackling this.